23-year-old Audrey Smith is suing her ex-boyfriend, 23-year-old John Grody, for crashing her VW Jetta. Audrey says John had been drinking and lost his cool.
All rise.
That's case number 130 on the calendar in the matter of Smith versus Grody. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Ms. Smith, according to what I've read in your complaint, you and Mr. Grody were dating. You went to a Christmas party with him using your car. He drove home from the Christmas party. There was an accident, and he totaled your car. You were a passenger in the car. You want $5,000 so that you can buy a new car, and Mr. Grody says that it was, in fact, an accident. There was snow and ice on the road, and you should have had better insurance if the car was so valuable. That's your defense, right? Okay. Let's see. This Christmas party was on what date?
December 4th of 2004.
And how far from your home was the Christmas party?
Well, from my home, it was about an hour and a half. From where John lives, it was about 40 minutes.
And I see from your complaint that it was originally your intention to sleep over.
Yes.
And you had hotel reservations.
I do not know if there was hotel reservations. I did call to get a receipt for the hotel reservations. They said that...
You made arrangements to stay over.
I did not. John said that he was going to make all the arrangements.
Okay. And that was because...
It was his Christmas party.
And you were both going to be drinking.
Yes.
So that was a very wise thing, to make arrangements to stay over.
Okay, we didn't make arrangements before we got there. Our whole thing was actually that we were going home that night. When we got there was when everybody said, oh, we're all staying here, so do you want to stay? And originally she said she didn't want to stay.
And what about you?
We didn't have the money to stay.
Your Honor.
Just a second, he's talking. Go ahead.
So when we were actually, when we were there, and I said, all right, well then, I wanted to stay there. She said we didn't have the money to stay there, so the plan was to drive home after that.
Who didn't have the money?
Both of us. Either of us.
So you didn't have the money either?
Well, I offered to pay. I mean, I had a credit card on me. I could have paid, but then she said she didn't want me to. So the plan was to go home.
Mr. Grody, were you drinking?
Yes, I was.
Was she drinking?
Yeah, she was.
Then you find the money to stay over.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
Now, what time did you leave the party?
I had to be around 12:30.
And what time had you arrived at the party?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
I believe it was around 8 o'clock.
What kind of alcohol were you consuming that day, Miss Smith?
I had some wine with dinner, and then in the bar area, I was drinking Captain and Diet Coke.
And what were you drinking, Mr. Grody?
Corbel and Diet Coke.
Corbel and Diet Coke. Is that a mix?
It is for me.
What, really? I mean, do you mix those two together, or you drink the Coke as a chaser?
No, I mix them together.
You mix them together?
Yep. I'm a brandy boy, sorry.
I guess it ain't a mimosa. I guess it's a Melissa.
Melissa, that's cute. It's cute. I wouldn't record it anywhere, but it's cute. How many of these bizarre drinks did you have that evening?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay. So you know that you were in no position to be driving home.
Before we left, I did stop drinking a while before we actually did leave.
How old are you, sir?
23.
How many hours into the drive home did you have this accident?
About 40 minutes. We were about a mile away from my house.
Is there a police report?
Yes, I have an accident report.
You're driving on a suspended license?
No.
Did you have a license?
Yes, I did.
It says that you were cited for driving too fast for the conditions, failure to notify police of an accident,
Correct.
and operating after a suspension.
Right. Actually, everything didn't go through. I actually paid the ticket that I had it suspended for before that, but it didn't go through in that township.
What was your license suspended for?
For not paying a ticket or not appearing in court for a speeding ticket.
Did you get a ticket for driving too fast for the conditions?
Yes, I did.
Okay. According to your complaint, Ms. Smith, he was angry that evening when you left.
Yes.
Is that right? Tell me about it.
Well, we were all just, socializing, and I went up to the bar to get a drink. And while I was waiting for my drink, a guy just randomly struck up a conversation with me. We were just chatting while I was waiting, and apparently John here didn't like that, and he came up and he had made a remark to the individual that was talking to me. I couldn't understand what he was saying, but I could definitely, he was aggressive in his body language towards this guy. So I really didn't want to, push the issue. I just stayed where I was, thought that he would just, have like 5 minutes of cool down time and I would stay there. But then immediately he came back up to me and he just said, "We're leaving now." And
what time was that?
I believe it was around 12:15.
Okay, and did you leave?
Yes.
And you let him drive?
Well, I didn't, yes. Physically, I let him drive because I knew I could not physically stop him from driving. He had possession of my keys because I allowed him to drive us to the party. And so he was angry. I was very scared. He's much larger than I am.
Shouldn't have gotten into the car.
I understand. I shouldn't have gotten into the car.
The car's just steel, replaceable.
Understandable. I was clearly not thinking about
the best
thing. Yes, and also, even if it hadn't been drinking, I believe due to the scare factor, I just didn't want him to, of course, damage my property that I worked very hard. And I know that's a very irrational thought. My body is much more precious than a chunk of metal, like you said.
You're right. So what happened on the way home?
He just kept saying that, why were you talking to this guy? This was my party. You're my girlfriend. Being very possessive, being very jealous.
Okay. And some of the booze talking, too.
Possibly, yeah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I freaked out and I said, "John, you need to slow down. You need to slow down. It's dark. We're on country roads and you've been drinking." But it was too late. And then the next thing I remember, he was saying, "Get out of the car now. Get out of the car now."
And later today.
Did you believe that the friendship would rekindle into a relationship?
No.
Mr. Marquez, don't insult my intelligence.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Audrey Smith says ex-boyfriend John Grody crashed her VW Jetta while driving drunk. Audrey also says John was irate when he got behind the wheel.
Keep going.
And so he was speeding because he was getting agitated. And I looked at the speedometer, and it was at 80 miles per hour. And I freaked out, and I said, "John, you need to slow down. You need to slow down. It's dark. We're on country roads, and you've been drinking." But it was too late. Then next thing I remember was him saying, "Oh." And then I blacked out momentarily. And then the next thing I remember, he was saying, "Get out of the car now. Get out of the car now." And I was very disoriented. And so he pulled me out through the driver's side door. And...
Okay.
I was going 85 about 10 miles before we actually crashed. I slowed down before we actually went around that curve because I go around that curve every day. I know that it's a bad curve and there's accidents there all the time.
What kind of car were you driving?
A 99 Volkswagen Jetta.
The car was totaled?
Yes.
Did you tell her that you were going to get her another car?
We had a car at work. I'm auto mechanic.
That's not my question.
Yes, I told her that I was going to buy her the car that we had at work and fix it for her, and it was more than equivalent to what she had. She said she didn't want that car. And after that, I'm not obligated, and I did not feel obligated to actually buy her a car. I thought it was just a nice gesture for me to do.
It's not a nice gesture, sir. You caused an accident.
Right.
Your lack of judgment, by virtue of the fact that you had been drinking all night, your lack of judgment and getting behind the wheel and being emotionally agitated with her that evening, which you clearly were. There's no question in my mind that that happened.
Right.
The police indicate that you were driving in excess of the speed limit. Your answer that you provided me says that you had this accident because of the road conditions, because it was icy, going in excess of the speed limits, which the police document.
It says too fast for conditions now.
That's absolutely right. Too fast for the conditions. Too fast for the conditions. Too fast for the hour of the evening. It was dark. Too fast for the fact that you had been drinking champagne and Coke a whole night. All of those things put together suggest to me that this was not an accident brought about by virtue of the fact that accidents sometimes happen. You were doing the wrong thing. And because you were doing the wrong thing, she doesn't have a car anymore.
Right.
So take care of that. You have the Blue Book value on your car?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
I did give her my car, by the way.
Shouldn't have it anymore, does she?
Yeah.
Yes, I do have, it was signed over to me, but I also have the NADA value of that.
Just a second. Hold it, my dear. You accepted the car from him and you registered it
Not at first. At first, he gave it to me. He said, you can borrow this car until I buy you the replacement for your totaled vehicle.
Okay.
I said, thank you. I told him, like, well, you know what? I'm going to take the car for now, and then I'm going to sue you for the rest.
Is that what she said to you?
Yep.
What kind of car did you give her?
95 Corsica Chevy.
Are you telling me that you signed the title over to her?
Correct.
And she said to you, I'm going to take this car, but I'm going to sue you for the rest of the money that I think you owe me, and you said, okay, I'm going to sign over the car anyway? Mm-hmm. Why in the world would you do that?
Because otherwise, if I took the car back from her, how would she get anywhere?
What do you care?
I don't want to be a jerk. I understand that she didn't have a car because of me, and I didn't want to be a jerk. I wanted her to be able to get around.
You've been driving this car since April?
I've actually been driving it since the accident happened. And the reason why I needed it transferred over into my name is because I found out that he did not carry insurance on it. And I was driving the car, and I need insurance. And in order to carry insurance, it has to be registered in my name. So that's why I had to do that. Otherwise, again, I would be left with no car.
Okay. Why don't you have her do this? Why don't you have her sign this title back over to him?
Signature of the seller, I guess.
Okay. Can I borrow your pen? Thank you.
Good. Now he's got his car back. Go pick it up.
Okay.
It's yours. And now you'll pay her $5,000 so she can go out and buy a car. Judge for the plaintiff for the amount of $5,000. That's
Thank you, Judge.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I thought it was, I guess, fair.
Of course I'm happy. I won. You know, yay.
I was just upset that she wasn't with the party.
He just kept saying, you know, this is my party, you're my guest, and you should be by my side the entire night.
That's pretty much all it was about.
Really have no, beef with him other than this.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Marquez versus Welfare, step forward, please.
23-year-old Joe Marquez is suing his ex-girlfriend, 22-year-old student Jamie Welfare, for selling his washer and dryer. Jamie claims the appliances were a Mother's Day gift from Joe.
How old are you, Mr. Marquez?
I'm 23. I'll be 24 in a couple of days.
Before you moved in with Miss Welfare and her two children, where were you living?
I was living with my parents.
And when did you move in with Miss Welfare?
I moved in with her in mid-October of 2003.
And how long did you live there?
I lived there until the beginning of April.
And where were you working during that time?
The whole time I was working at Denny's restaurant.
Part-time?
Part-time, yes. I also coached football at the local elementary school.
What was your financial arrangement when you were living with Miss Welfare?
We paid half. I paid $300, she paid $300.
For rent?
For rent, correct.
Is that right?
That's correct.
What about the rest of the expenses?
We usually split those down the middle as well.
And what were you doing, Miss Welfare?
I also had two jobs. I was working at two separate restaurants.
Okay. This is what the complaint is about. The complaint says that while you were living there, you purchased a washer and dryer. When you moved out in April of 2004, you told Miss Welfare that she could keep them for a while because you had no place to take them because you were moving back with your parents. A year later, you finally get your own place. You let her know you want your washer and dryer back, and she says, forget it.
Actually, I did have a place to put them. I have a receipt for my storage space, which I purchased in April 17th of 2004 as well, which was actually 5 days after I moved everything out of the apartment.
All right, so you didn't want to put it in your storage space because...
Well, she has two children, and we've been to the laundromat together, and it takes quite a long time to do laundry. And since my parents already had a washer and dryer, I had no need for them at that time. And I had just purchased them in March of that year, which had only been about a month. So I figured I might as well get some use out of them by leaving them at her apartment.
That's somewhat correct, but not completely correct.
23-year-old Joe Marquez is suing his ex-girlfriend, 22-year-old student Jamie Welfare, for selling his washer and dryer. Jamie claims the appliances were a Mother's Day gift from Joe.
Well, let me hear what your version of the events were.
When he bought those for me, it was an early Mother's Day gift. I was the one doing all the laundry. He never even did his own laundry. I was doing my laundry, his laundry, and both of my children's laundry. And between the two jobs and being at the laundromat all the time, it was a lot of time away, and so we had been discussing, him buying a washer and dryer for me, and he was looking online and said, hey, come and pick the one you want. And so I picked the one I want. He gave them to me. When he moved out, I was sleeping when he moved out. You know, our relationship had gotten kind of rocky. There was never any discussion about me giving them back, ever.
When, for the first time, did you contact her with regard to retrieving these 2 items?
Your Honor, as she said, I moved out at the very beginning of April of 2004. We didn't talk for 2 weeks afterwards. After that, we, began phone conversations, and actually on May 5th of 2004, she came over to my house, my parents' house, for a little Cinco de Mayo get-together. In May of 2004, I gave Miss Welfare $100 because she was having a rough time making it on her own in the apartment, and I have here a check for utilities / other stuff I gave to Miss Welfare for $100 to help her out.
Could you answer my question?
Sure.
You remember what my question was?
Yes, I do. Have we ever talked about it? About the washer and dryer?
When, for the first time, did you ask for it back?
I first asked for it back when I found out I was moving out with my current girlfriend, which was in March of 2005.
Okay, so between April of 2004 and March 2005, you had absolutely no discussion with her about this washer and dryer.
That is incorrect. When I gave her that check, which was dated May 20th of 04, we had discussed it. She actually wanted to purchase the washer and dryer fully. She wanted to give me payments per month. And I told her that since we were becoming good friends, I did not want the only conversation to be between us about the washer and dryer.
At that time, Mr. Marquez, did you believe that the friendship would rekindle into a relationship?
No. Actually, when we first broke up,
Mr. Marquez, don't insult my intelligence.
Sorry, Your Honor.
You don't go from being lovers to friends without somebody hoping for a little bit more.
That is correct. Yes.
So during that time, and during the time, according to you, she said, why don't you let me make payments on it? You said, no.
Correct.
And now you have a new girlfriend.
Yes, I do.
You moving into an apartment together?
We have currently moved into an apartment as of the 9th of April.
And I assume it doesn't have a washer and dryer.
Actually, it does. After this little skirmish between me and my ex-girlfriend, my current girlfriend went out and purchased one, hoping it would make me feel a little bit better.
Did it?
I was very, very pleased that she would show that much friendship towards me. But I wasn't very angry about the washer and dryer. I was angry at the fact that she took me for granted that I was being nice and letting her borrow the washer and dryer when I could have just put them in my storage.
Get over it. There is something that doesn't ring true, sir, about your story that you told her more than a year ago, that I'm letting you use this piece of equipment that breaks down, that once it's used, it becomes less functional. I'm going to let you use that for as long as it takes. And it just so happens that the time that you want it back is when you're moving in with a new girlfriend. By the way, whose washer and dryer is the new one that was purchased?
It is hers.
I just want her to hear that.
Yes, I've told her that many times.
Very good. And you know whose this is?
Yes.
Hers. Thank you. That's it. Have a happy life.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It boils down to he has a new girlfriend now.
I told her, I gave her my word that I'd let her use them until I moved out again.
And he needs somebody else to do his laundry.
I actually know how to do my laundry.
I mean, his mom did it, then I did it, and now she's going to do it.
Actually, she taught me how to do it.
I think she made the right decision.
I have no hard feeling towards her.
And I'm thankful. I'm very thankful.
If you move out of an apartment with a girl...
Mrs. Kaminer, step forward.
36-year-old nurse Vicki Herman is suing Louise Kaminer, her husband of 9 years. Vicki claims she's been abused and harassed by her now ex-husband and is suing for damages. Lewis says his ex-wife's allegations are totally false and feels he owes her nothing.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 170 on the calendar in the matter of Herman versus Kaminer. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
You're Mr. Kaminer.
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Herman, you and Mr. Kaminer had been married for some time. You are no longer married.
We're still married, trying to divorce him.
Your divorce isn't final yet. You haven't been together for some time. You have one child. a little boy who you adopted back in 1991, according to these papers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Ms. Herman, I really don't know what you're suing for. Looks to me from your complaint that you're suing for bad marriage. You have to explain it to me. You, sir, have a countersuit. Your countersuit is for some amount of money, $3,800 is, I think, that the price tag that you put on the fact that your wife has been frustrating your visitation with your son. I don't know how you can put a price tag on that. But you're up first, Ms. Herman. You tell me what you're suing for, and then I'll tell you what I think about this case.
Okay. The harassment has been going on for a long time. Verbal harassment, physical abuse.
Well, you say that, and that's
I
what you said here.
have court papers. I have the police reports here.
Let's start with physical abuse, which you allege, the assault and battery. When are we talking about?
That was September of 1996.
Tell me about that.
Lewis brought our son home to my house at the end of a visitation day. The child was asleep, and as per usual, I came out of my home. We have a 5-foot fence around the house. Came out of the gate, went into the driveway, took my child out of the car, was carrying him in my arms, went through the gate, closed the gate, when Lewis turned around and said, "I want to give him a kiss." Well, I was already inside the gate, and the gate was closed. He pushed the gate open, grabbed a hold of my left arm, pulling me backwards with my child in the right arm. There was between the gate and a tree, it was probably 20, 30 feet. When I started screaming, you know, "I'm going to call the police," and at that point he did let go. I did file a police report. This happened in front of my child. My child was screaming his head off, terrifying.
The reason this all happened is because Jacob woke up and wanted me to give him a kiss goodbye.
Shh. Just a second. Well, I know something happened with that kiss goodbye because that was glossed over. Miss Herman, you say the gate was closed, and according to you, your husband said, "I want to kiss the child goodbye." And you just said to me, "But I was already through the gate."
Right.
Well, what did you say to him? Did you just keep moving?
I just kept going, yeah.
Well, Miss Herman, that's wrong. Let me stop you right there. That's wrong. If he wanted to kiss the child goodbye, even if the gate was closed, you opened the gate just as simply as you closed it behind you, and you let him kiss the child goodbye. I'm not thinking about him. I'm thinking about your child.
So I was
No,
quite a
you weren't.
distance.
No. Miss Herman, I haven't started on him yet because there are some things in here that I don't quite think are right. But I'm going to tell you that you said, "No kiss goodbye, screw you," and you kept walking. And that was the wrong thing to do. And you didn't do it in your child's best interest. You did it because you're annoyed with him. Wrong. That doesn't mean he should put his hands on you. That means that you instigated it. So I'm pretty unsympathetic. But when I read these complaints, and there are certain things, Mr. Kaminer, that you acknowledge. For instance, you acknowledge drug use. You acknowledge that you had a long history of drug use, which means that I can understand why she was frustrated with you. But that doesn't excuse the fact that right now you have a child that you have to take into consideration. And when you act out of malice towards him, that's not good for your child who's in your arms. Could have easily been resolved by you saying, "Want to kiss him goodbye? Kiss Daddy goodbye." Doesn't cost anything. What else are you suing him for?
There's a lot of medical bills for my son. Well, not a lot, but there are medical bills for my son. Dental bills that he's under court orders. He was supposed to pay the health insurance, the life insurance, car insurance, etc., which he's only just started paying. There wasn't any for almost a year.
But you're going to court with regard to those bills, are you not?
No, ma'am. The bills that he didn't pay for a year weren't paid. I paid him because the child needed to be cared for.
Okay.
He was given a copy of the bills. He's supposed to pay half of them. I want them that he should be responsible for this child.
He was supposed to pay for half of them.
Yes, he hasn't paid a penny.
For that year?
Yes.
Is that correct? How much does he owe you for that year, Ms. Herman?
Total it out completely. I have the bills.
Well, you've had that whole figure. You know you didn't pay for that year, sir.
I've never received any bills for that year, Your Honor.
Did you ever present the bills to him?
That was never told to me.
Just a second.
And on one
Deb,
of those...
Shh, Ms. Herman, did you ever present him, show him the bills?
Yes.
When?
On some of the receipts that you have there on the back of the medication receipts, there's one that I put a date on and had given it to him. But I got to a point where, you know, there was no point in talking to him. All I would do is I'd give him to the attorney and wait to go to court. It's been so long going back and forth.
Who's Lori Kleiman?
That's a counselor that Jacob was seeing.
What kind of counselor?
Well, because of the trauma and stuff that Jacob has had to go through, he is in counseling at the recommendation of a school, which Lewis was aware. Again, Lewis didn't pay the bill, which was for $400 to the previous counselor, who, of course, refused to continue seeing the child, despite Lewis agreeing and being in the meeting and agreeing to the $100 a week charge.
Who's Pamela McNair?
That was the original therapist that Lewis agreed to pay $100 a week to her for counseling for Jacob. He did not pay it. I paid the first $300 and I didn't have any more money. He was given a copy of the bill. He was told that Jacob would not be able to be counseled anymore unless the bill was paid. We got there and the counselor told my son, you can't be seen because the bill's not paid.
Well, then your counselor should have
his or her license revoked. I was in the room at the time. But
Ms. Herman, don't make things worse than they are. If a counselor says to a child, I'm sorry I can't see you anymore because your father hasn't paid the bills.
Well, it wasn't in those exact words.
Well, that's what you just told me.
Basically, she said this will be the last time that she'll be able to see him.
She may have told that to you, but she didn't tell that to the child.
Yes, she did say it would be the last time.
Then she's an idiot. Then you chose an idiot for a counselor.
Well, that's why I changed the counselor.
Well, then why should he pay for a counselor that you picked that was an idiot?
But he was aware.
What do you mean he was aware? You picked an idiot for a counselor, any counselor that says to a 5-year-old child, your parents don't pay, you can't come to see me. I wouldn't let counsel a dog that I didn't like.
This was the counselor that the school recommended.
Miss Herman, I want you to stop. Listen to me. He's no bargain because we haven't touched him yet, right? I want you to stop viewing yourself as a victim. You got to start getting hold of your life. You married him. You're going to divorce him. Stop viewing yourself as a victim. You know, you have to accept some responsibility yourself, including for the incident at the gate.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He doesn't even show up half the time. He doesn't phone. He doesn't say anything.
When you guys are ready for reality, let me talk.
Judge Judy. Lewis Kaminer says his ex-wife's allegations of abuse are totally false. Vicki Herman has brought her ex-husband to court, claiming he has harassed and abused her.
Now, Miss Herman, the reason that I've addressed much of my comment to you during the course of this thing is because I haven't wanted it to appear as if I am going to be unfair to Mr. Kaminer when I now turn my attention to him. Now, how long had you been using drugs? Were you using drugs when you married this lady?
Yes, I was, Your Honor.
What kind of drugs were you using?
Marijuana, Your Honor.
How often?
I was a casual smoker. I had times high and low. Yes, Your Honor.
And it was the drug use that ultimately resulted in...
No, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Of course it was. Mr. Kaminer.
I was in a drug rehab program for approximately 6 months prior to my wife filing divorce papers on me, Your Honor.
Did you have a relapse while you were in the drug rehab program?
No, Your Honor. The court has all drug tests showing negative drug use.
During the 6 months that you were in rehab, is what you're telling me that you didn't have a relapse and that while you were in rehab, she left you?
Yes, Your Honor. Not until after the divorce papers were filed for separation, I probably did have a relapse.
Your Honor, may I speak directly to that about the drugs?
Go ahead.
The reason I specifically filed for divorce and the reason we separated is my son, who was 2.5 at the time, pulled out a very large bag of marijuana from under the front seat of his car and said, Mom, what's this? It smells funny. At that point, I told him, he's gone. He refused to go to rehab. He didn't show up half the time for counseling. I told him I would not go to counseling with him because it was his problem. But when you have a 2.5-year-old handing you drugs...
you did absolutely, positively the right thing.
So
you did absolutely, positively the right. When somebody is heavily involved in drug use, half the time they don't even know what they're doing. So she left you. She had good reason to file for divorce from you, sir. Is that a fair statement?
Fair statement, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, you had a business, and the business, you say, went south after a while. You know you owe her some money, and I assume that you're going to pay her. Part of that is not the subject of this case. She shouldn't have to chase you for child support.
She's not, Your Honor. The district attorney's doing a really good job of that himself.
Well, that's a good thing, because if she had to chase you, then she would be emotionally involved with this chase even more than she is now, and that wouldn't be good for Jacob.
Yes, Your Honor.
So it's very good that the district attorney took at least some of that burden off her shoulder. So you are not, sir, in any way blameless. It's probably all your fault that this marriage went south to begin with, because you can't live with somebody who's abusing drugs.
If Your Honor doesn't take into the fact that I did enter rehab, I did stop, I have negative drug testing, even to as much as 2 months ago when I got this job.
Just a second, sir. You told me yourself you relapsed.
Well, my version of relapse was maybe 1 day.
That's a relapse. And that's your version. And nobody relapsed. Nobody who's a drug user for years relapses for 1 day. Mr. Kaminer, I've been in this business for a very, very long time, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
And to quote a very, very wise person, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Yes, Your Honor.
Bottom line with regard to this, these bills you're going to pay, you know, half of these bills you're going to pay. We're going to figure them out. Bird, do me a favor, will you please? While I'm screaming and yelling at these people, would you sit down and try to figure out, I think it's this stack of bills. Go through this, and let's come up with a figure that's half of that. Here's your trusty calculator. Thank you much. You don't mind if I delegate this responsibility to Officer Bird? He really is much smarter than I am when it comes to numbers. However, in the other department, I think I've got him beat. You two folks have a child. When you adopted this child, I assume that you didn't adopt him for the purposes of making him miserable. Bird, do me a favor, take that someplace else. It's making too much noise and I can't think.
Sorry, Judge.
You didn't adopt him with the view towards making his life miserable. And clearly that's going to happen unless the two of you can come up with some way of living separate and apart, but at least being able to come together for the best interests of your child. Miss Herman, you have to do two things. You have to be satisfied that he is no longer using drugs so that you're comfortable with visitation. Do you understand that? Most of the time he used marijuana. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. He's been involved in heroin, cocaine,
Fine.
many drugs.
Then random drug screens once a week will be able to tell over a period of time whether he's still involved in drug use. What are you going like this for?
Because can I specifically address that? Originally, there was a court order for him to be drug tested within 24 hours of my notification. Every time I would call him and ask him to drug test, he would claim he's out of town.
I don't think that you should have any control over that whatsoever.
That was a court order from the judge.
No, listen to me. Well, I don't know why this judge would make such an order.
Also,
quite frankly, I don't think that that's smart. For a judge, I don't think that it's smart for a judge to say, you, madam, call up and tell him when you want him to go and give a urine sample, because that's too much control for you to have. There should be a very simple order. If his visitation is from Friday to Monday, every Thursday, he should be drug tested, because drugs stay in your system for a period of 72 hours. If he's using drugs, it's going to show up. If you say, I have to be 100% positive, and the only way to do that is have him tested 4 times a week, or have him random tested when I want it, because you're shaking your head no, that's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The guy you work for used to be a cocaine dealer.
As I say, my wife is very angry, and she's letting her anger affect the welfare of my son.
Real people, Judge Judy. Louis Kaminer says his ex-wife's allegations of abuse are totally false. Vicki Herman has brought her ex-husband to court, claiming he has harassed and abused her.
He was exercising his visitation, according to you, 20 times. Out of possible 40 times, he saw Jacob 20 times. Was Jacob returned to you okay?
He actually took Jacob at one point from the school without my knowledge.
Miss Herman!
No,
stop
Jacob's
being a
not
victim.
always returned okay.
What do you mean okay? What do you mean he wasn't returned okay? He was dirty?
He's always dirty.
So?
He's always hungry.
So?
He's not returned on time. There's no phone call to let me know that he's
That's
45
unacceptable,
minutes
Mr.
late.
Kaminer.
I don't know what she's
On
talking
time.
about. I take him to the school, Your Honor. I don't
That's
take him
not
to her
true.
house. And she picks him up at my house.
Just a second.
True.
Ms. Herman, if you're going to make it difficult for him to see this child after you are reasonably satisfied that he's not using drugs, your son will grow up hating you or feeling very badly about himself. Listen, you owe her half the medical bills. And
Yes,
half
Your
the
Honor.
medical bills, according to Byrd, is...
$565.15, Judge.
That's what you owe her. I am not awarding you anything, Mrs. Herman, with regard to this assault that you allege in 1996. You could have prevented that by allowing him a kiss goodbye with the child. You, on the other hand, Mr. Kaminer, have certain responsibilities. And your responsibility is to support your child. And based upon what I've seen, you have not done so in a reasonable fashion since the separation. Ms. Herman, was he using drugs when you married him?
At the time, I believed not.
When you met him and agreed to marry him, did you know he had a drug problem?
Yes, which I had detoxed him at home through a counselor because he refused to go to rehab and I thought he was clean. It may be stupid, but I believed it. It was very stupid, but I did believe it.
I know it's a terrible thing to say to you, but I'm telling you something. You picked him.
Oh, yeah, I
That's
loved
your
him.
problem.
I loved him and I believed him.
You picked him. It's your problem.
I agree.
The only innocent that we have here
Is Jake.
right. And one way or another, you're going to have to put aside all of the bad history that you have in order to plan for Jacob. And you can't feel, Miss Herman, that you want to have control. He doesn't want you to have control. And I don't blame him. So if you're satisfied, right now he's not on drugs. I can tell. I have an eye. I can smell it. I can see that he's not using. I know you're laughing, but I can tell that he's not using.
Well, I know him, and that's his functional level. So.
Your Honor,
Well, I have more history and I have more experience.
I'm sure you do.
Right now, he's not using.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
If he's not using drugs, he should have as much visitation with the child as he wants. And let me tell you why. Because if he's going to disappoint Jacob, let him disappoint him. Jacob can't blame you for interfering with his relationship with his father. So you give him as much visitation as he can handle. Give him as much as they want. They probably will only exercise a part of it. And you're not going to be the bad one. Because Jacob's getting older. All right, judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $565. Mr. Kaminer, you have a counterclaim that I am not going to address right now. I think that your wife has, based upon your history, some legitimate concerns with regard to visitation and your child. I think that she probably, at least I hope she understands now that it's not in Jacob's best interest to frustrate visitation. I believe that you've had visitation. You've had some ongoing problems with her with support. I am not awarding you $3,800 for your lawyer so that you can continue to contest whatever proceedings are in family court. You pay support and you give him visitation. This case is over.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge...
50-year-old waitress Amy Bond is suing her former fiancé Thomas Wheelock. Amy claims that when their relationship ended, Thomas stopped making the payments on his car loan, which she co-signed. Thomas says he only stopped when Amy refused to give him the car.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Judge, it's number 172 on the calendar in the matter of Bond versus Wheelock. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Vaughn, you were engaged to this gentleman.
Yes, I was.
And have a child together.
Yes.
Now, according to your complaint, you are suing this gentleman because while you were together, you co-signed for a car for him.
Yes.
Big mistake.
Yes, I know.
And when you separated, you took back the car.
Yes, I did. The reason why I took it back was because he was unemployed at the time, and my name is on that insurance and on the car payments.
What about when you separated? You took the car with you initially when you separated.
I took the car the first 2 days, and then her and her mother came over to pick up the car, and I said I would refuse to pay for it if she took it.
That sounds fair.
I took it back because he was unemployed. He didn't make the insurance payments or the car payments that month before because he didn't have a job.
Did you miss a car payment?
No, I did not. No, well, because she was paying most of the time for the car.
She was paying it?
Yeah.
For it. Why weren't you paying for it?
Because I'm a bum. Couldn't keep a job for very long and
Why not?
just had problems.
I mean, that's an interesting comment. Maybe truthful, but you classify yourself as a bum. And you said that with a smile on your face. You think that's right?
No.
Well, Mr. Wheelock, you know, I read your answer, sir. I'll get to the car in a second. I read your answer, sir, and your answer complains of lack of visitation with your son.
Mm-hmm.
And you hope that at least I can, in some small measure, resolve the issue of visitation with your son.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I want to expose a 2-year-old child to a bum?
Can I tell you that?
Well, you're the child's father. If you can't tell me that, who do you think can?
That I don't deserve to see him.
Then I don't have to entertain your counterclaim.
Okay.
Are you being honest with me, sir?
Yes.
That takes care of that. That's an easy one. Miss Bourne, you have the car.
Yes.
You took the car back shortly after you separated.
Yes.
Then you have to sell it. I don't know what you're complaining about here.
I took it back because he wasn't making the payments. Why should I make the payments when he has the car?
You're absolutely right. You should have sold it immediately.
I've been
Meanwhile,
trying to.
It's been sitting in your garage.
Yes, I've been trying to. In May, a month after we broke up, I put it in an ad. I did not get any responses. I've gone down to 6,000 in another ad. Gotten some calls, but no offers yet. I've been trying my hardest. I don't know what else to do.
Mr. Wheelock, you want to say anything to me? Huh?
About what?
About this whole process.
I think it's a joke.
Why?
Because, I mean, either way, I have nothing to gain or lose.
But do you feel as if you have any responsibility at all towards helping to make up the deficit in what the car will sell for?
Your Honor, I told her that if she gave me the car, I'd be happy to pay for it.
Do you have a job now?
Yes, I do.
Who do you live with?
I live with my parents at the current time.
Do you help support your son?
No, I do not.
Why not?
Because I haven't been able to.
Well, if you haven't been able to help support your son, how are you going to pay for a car?
I just got this job. I was only making $7 an hour at the other job, and all of it went to rent.
To your parents?
No. I was living with my friends. It's kind of a confusing situation. Moved into my friend's house, and I was paying $450 a month for rent, and that's most of my paycheck.
So that you moved back to your parents' house?
Yeah.
Well, you know, this is a no-win situation. It's really a no-win situation. And I want you to think that there's really a much larger picture here, and the much larger picture here is that you two people, when you were still children, had a baby. Now, I don't know why you, sir, refer to yourself in such derogatory terms. I know you say that with a smile, but I attribute that to nervousness.
Actually, not really. I have a 2-year-old son, and I spend over $450 sleeping on my friend's floor for rent. I'm a bum.
Well, you made some misjudgments in your life. But this child is only going to have one father. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, but I have to straighten up because I have a child. And you never know, it may be the only child you'll ever have. But you're his father. And it's a very bad thing for a child to feel abandoned by a parent.
Yes, I've given him rights to see him. We've set up every Wednesday for him to come see him when he was living with his friends. And half the time he didn't show up. That's one of the reasons why I gave up, because I'd be sitting there waiting for him to show, and he just didn't make the effort to make it.
Why not, Mr. Wheeler?
I didn't want to get into this, but how do I say this? I've been afraid for myself and for my son every time I'm with her.
Why is that?
Because she's hurt me and she's hurt Brandon when I'm around. That's why we broke up.
How she hurt him?
She's thrown him threw the air onto a bed. She threw a can towards him, did not hit him. She left him outside my parents' house when it was raining, and then she drove off, and that was her game. I mean, if it hurt me, that's what she wanted to do.
Did that ever happen?
No.
Your Honor, if we could continue this another day, I can get the 911 tape.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If he feels as if you made no effort to see him, it lends to a feeling of worthlessness to a child. They feel I'm not even a worthwhile enough person for my own father to come to see me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 20-year-old Amy Bond is suing her former fiancé, Thomas Wheelock, because she says he stopped making the payments on a car loan which she co-signed. Thomas says he only stopped when Amy refused to give him the car.
Just tell me what your side of the story is. I'm a pretty good judge of the truth of things.
She would, for the first 3 months that we split up, she had this attitude that she didn't want Brandon. So she'd always tell me, sending me pager messages, that she didn't want him. And then she'd leave him.
Listen.
And if I can get a letter from my parents, they would tell you that, but they're just afraid they won't be able to see Brandon anymore.
If you made a mistake with each other, put a period at the end of that and say, I have to move on with my life, but this was a mistake. We were 20 years old. 20 years old, you're still babies. You have a child. You have to act responsibly towards the child. If you made a mistake in picking him, and if you made a mistake in picking her as the mother of your child and he is the father of your child, that's not the baby's fault. You, sir, have a responsibility to see your child. And that doesn't mean in a controlled environment. Does he have a drug problem?
No.
He just has a keeping a job problem, right?
And keeping promises. If he says he's going to show up to see his son, I expect him to be there.
Well, when you say see his son, I assume you don't mean seeing him in your home.
No, I go to, when he was living with his friends, we went to his parents' house, a mutual place. His parents...
You mean to just drop the child off?
I would stay there.
Why?
I don't know.
Well, Ms. Bond, we're going to talk about that. I mean, I'm not interested in this car. This car is in your possession. You're going to have to sell this car, and if you have a loss and then you want to refile your case about the car, that's your prerogative. But you can't have the car and the money, too. Do you understand?
Yes.
Fine. But let's get back to this baby, because while the car is important, it's not half as important as the two of you and how you're going to interact with this child. Ms. Bond, you just said to me, I don't know why I stay there when he has visitation. You should not be there. You two people clearly don't like each other anymore. I don't think that there's open hostility, perhaps. I don't see that, but there might be. He should have an opportunity, unless there's some reason of drugs, alcohol, some kind of chemical dependency that might place the child at risk, he should have an opportunity to spend time with his child with you not present. He's the father. And maybe if he felt better about himself, taking some responsibility time-wise with his child, maybe he wouldn't think he's such a bum. And you may be, sir, just that. But you have a responsibility when it comes to visiting your child, because that's right for your son. Quite frankly, I don't give two hoots for the two of you. You made the mistake. But by compounding that, it seems to me you're going to hurt this child, because as he gets older, he's going to wonder where his father is. And all he's got to figure is that you made it difficult for his father to see him, then he's going to be angry with you, right?
Yeah.
And if he feels as if you made no effort to see him, he's not only going to be angry with you, but it lends to a feeling of worthlessness to a child. They feel, I'm not even a worthwhile enough person for my own father to come to see me. Think that's fair?
No.
He's the innocent. As young as you are, you did a very grown-up thing by making a baby. And it's your responsibility to see to it that this child does not grow up with a feeling of worthlessness because his own father doesn't want to see him. take care of it.
What about the loss of the car that I've already incurred already?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today...
Come on! Get it
did, Your
together,
Honor.
Mr. Bassett.
That's the truth.
You think I have stupid written over here?
No, I don't know.
Good.
Judy is ready to rule.
All right. You have a $2,000 bill from the time you separated until this time, and I'm going to give you that. But that's all you're getting, because you have to either give the car back to him or you have to sell it, and whatever loss there is, it'll be absorbed. At that point, you do not have an anticipatory loss. You have a loss that you can put a number on. I have a $3,000 loss. Now I feel as if you have to contribute to that. But Ms. Bourne, he says that if you give him back the car, he will assume the payments for it. So that's what I think that you should do. Give him back the car. Mr. Wheelock, for a 20-year-old guy to say I'm a bum is a terrible thing. I don't know what kind of upbringing you had, but as a parent, if your parents permitted you to grow up to your age thinking that you're a bum, that they didn't do a terrific job, you better do a better job with your son. Because if you think you're a bum, unless you do something positive right now with a child that's 2 years old, your son will grow up thinking the same thing about himself. Because that's what happens. And that's not fair. You don't seem as if you're a stupid young man. You've done some stupid things. So shape up. And when he has visitation, you don't have to be there. Because that's control. And that's not fair. You're each parents, but you both have to act responsibly. And you better start paying some child support, sir. Now. That's all.
Excuse me, step out. Back onto your right, please.
And now the next case.
Parties on Stevenson versus Bassett. Step forward, please.
20-year-old Melissa Stevenson says her ex-boyfriend, 23-year-old Grant Bassett, didn't pay her the money she loaned him to purchase a car. Grant claims Melissa was not his girlfriend and the money for the car was a gift.
You two folks were an item, dated, were romantically involved. Do you claim you lent him money for a truck? Is that right?
That is correct.
No. We were not romantically involved.
Just a second.
Couple.
She claims that you were romantically involved as a couple, and she lent you money for a truck, which you bought. You say she gave you an old truck of hers, and it was a loan.
Yes, ma'am.
And it got towed.
Yes, ma'am.
So, those are two diametrically opposed stories. Let's hear about it, Miss Stevenson.
Grant and I were friends and dating for 4 months. Grant had decided to take a job out of state in Arizona, and I was all for him doing that because it was a career advancement, and he did not have a vehicle, so he had no way of getting there. So we had batted back and forth the idea of me loaning him the money to purchase a truck. And he looked through the Auto Trader and he found what he wanted, and I came down with a Visa check, you know how you can draw money off your account, and we were going to go purchase this truck. What happened is they wouldn't take the check, they wanted cash, so I went in, got a cash advance off my credit card for $3,500, and we purchased the truck.
Go ahead.
So Grant leaves for Arizona, takes the truck with him, and we had a verbal agreement that he would make double payments on whatever my minimum balance was on the credit card. So first month goes by, I get a couple checks in the mail. I was, oh great, I can pay my payment. I was happy about that. And the next month rolls by, we talked on the phone, and I said, are you going to send me some money this month? And he was having trouble paying his bills, and he stopped sending me any money. Pretty much every month I called him, send me $50, send me something so I can pay my credit card bill. I'm a struggling student trying to pay my bills here too. Nothing came of that. No money was sent. I kept on him, and...
That's it. That's where we are right now.
Basically, yes.
All right, Mr. Bassett.
Okay. What happened is I left for Arizona, and Melissa had a truck, so she lent me her truck because I was going to move out of state. I did not want to purchase another vehicle in California and have to move to Arizona, reside, have to pay the registration fees. So my first 2 weeks in the academy, I bought a vehicle. So her vehicle sat at the apartment that me and my partner were sharing, and it wasn't registered. Wasn't registered in either one of our names. We could not re-register it. They couldn't pass smog. The axles were bent, so it got towed away.
Mr. Bassett, you just told me a story that is totally different from hers. You understand
Yes, Your Honor. I was never there during the transaction. I don't know where she got the money. I don't know where she got the vehicle.
Can I see your transactions, please?
Sure. Your Honor, I have some other things that will help verify my story. Grant was about to move back from Arizona, and I called him up. I said, listen, you know, we're friends. Why would you do this to me? I want some proof that you're going to pay me back when you can. And I said, would you be willing to sign a contract stating you owe me the money? And he said, yeah, you know, I'm your friend. I'll do that. I just jotted down that he did owe me the money, that he had given me a payment already on it, and that he would have to pay. You know, I was getting really frustrated by this time. I had been paying on it for over a year and paying interest, 18% on my credit card. That's ridiculous.
Show him this, please. Ask him. Mr. Bassett, is that your signature on that loan agreement?
Yes, Your Honor, it is. And if you notice, their coincidence just happened to be on my birthday.
Happy birthday, sir.
Yeah.
Is that your signature?
Exactly. I was happy birthday.
I didn't know it was his birthday.
You signed that?
Yes.
So?
So she showed up on my birthday. All my friends were there, so I had to sign it just to get her out of there.
Get out of here. Give this to me.
Your Honor?
Get out, just a second. Am I correct that you went to Arizona in order to become a police officer?
Yes, that's correct.
Corrections officer in a jail.
Just a second. Being a corrections officer, similar as far as I'm concerned to being a police officer.
Yes, ma'am.
Supposed to be able to rely on what you say to me, Mr. Bassett. You don't sign something like this and then come and tell me this grandma story that it was your birthday and you just signed anything. Come on. Get it together, Mr. Bassett.
That's the truth.
You think I have stupid written over here?
No, I don't, no.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The balance of the loan is how much, madam?
About a little over $4,900.
All right. Let me tell you what I have, sir. Let me tell you what proof I have today. Aside from just hearing these two stories, which, you know, could be written from two different novels, I have proof that she withdrew the money from the bank. I have the fact that there was a car or a truck. And I have a signed statement from you with a signature that I have compared to your signature on your answer, and also you acknowledge that you signed that you owe her the money. That's the proof I have. Right?
Yes.
Stands up to me. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,900. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Parties on Now versus West. Step forward, please.
54-year-old Jim Knoll is suing Gary West, a salesman from Fullerton, California. Jim's son Ty says that while driving his father's new Ford Explorer, Gary's son Jared was horsing around with the four-wheel drive controls and caused $1,300 in damages to the truck.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 127 on the calendar in the matter of Knoll versus West. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Nowell, you are the owner of a four-wheel drive truck kind of car.
Ford Explorer.
According to your complaint, your 16-year-old son, that's you, sit up, was driving this four-wheel drive truck, and the defendant's son, that's you, was a, you can sit down.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Was a passenger in the front seat. According to your complaint, this young man damaged your car by pressing some sort of a button.
To change it from two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive while the car was in motion. Truck was in motion, yeah.
And you say that because of that, there was damage to the car, $1,300 worth.
Yeah, it was in perfect working condition until the boys went for a 15-minute ride to the Del Taco.
Okay. You weren't in the car?
No.
Now up. What's your name?
Kai.
How long have you been driving?
About 2 months.
How long were you driving at the time that you had this young man as a passenger?
A couple days.
Days?
Yeah.
Who else was in the car other than the two of you?
Those two guys, Jeff and Chris.
So there were 4 of you all together.
Right.
So tell me what happened. You get in the car and your friends get in the car and you decide to take a little spin.
We were going to Del Taco to get dinner, and we were just, you know, driving, and Jared decided he wanted to push the 4-wheel drive button. So he kept hitting it, and I asked him to stop, and I told him to stop, and I slapped his hand away and tried to make him stop, but he's bigger than me, and I was trying to drive and do it at the same time, so.
Why didn't you stop the car?
Because I thought he would, I don't know.
Did you have any sense that that would damage the car?
I thought it would do it if he did it enough, but I didn't think it would do that much damage.
You wanted to say something, sir?
Yeah, basically, you know, his friend was in the back seat, and he's not a friend with the defendant, Jared West. And so there's little intimidations, a new group of friends. He was trying to be in that thing, so he didn't just stop. He came home to us and told us when it happened, and that's the first thing he said to us was how disappointed he was that he let us down. He said they should have stopped the vehicle and just kicked him out. That's what he told us, and he was crying.
Right.
He was crying. He knew he didn't do the right thing.
Okay.
But he tried to do the right thing, but he didn't stop the car.
Your name?
Jared West, Your Honor.
So you're driving as a passenger in this car?
Yes, I was.
Do you drive?
Yes.
What kind of a car do you drive?
1993 Pontiac Trans Am.
What were you fooling around with the buttons for?
Well, what he forgot to mention was that on the way to Del Taco, he stopped off and he was driving through a grassy knoll and hopped a couple curbs and stuff. And I figured since he was going over a grassy knoll...
Going over a grassy knoll? What does that look like?
There was like a park-type area behind a Save-On drugstore.
Mm-hmm.
And he had jumped over a curb and went onto the grass. And I figured since he was going on the grass and stuff that he might want to be on 4-wheel drive. And then he said he didn't want to, you know, he didn't want me to do it. And then it just, I'm sorry to say, it sort of turned into a game after that. And I shouldn't have done it. You know, I realize that.
Don't put your hands up, sir. You weren't there. Did you go over a grassy knoll and go over some curbs when you were driving this car?
Yes.
Why'd you do that for?
I just made a mistake.
So it sounds to me as if both of you boys were acting irresponsibly with this car. Is that right?
Yes.
I agree.
Is that right?
Yes, I agree.
Well, Mr. Knoll, this isn't a very, very difficult situation, sir. Some damage was caused to your car. I assume you have the bills to show me what the damage was. Is that right?
Yes, the car is in
Mr.
perfect
West, I
working
don't even need to
condition,
speak to you.
Yes, you do.
Well, just a second.
Okay.
The reason I don't need to speak to you, sir, is because you originally, according to these papers that I received, spoke to Mr. Knoll, and at that time you said to him, pretty much, that both boys were wrong, and that you were prepared to pay for half the damage that was caused to the car.
I did some
Didn't you?
brief investigation before I made that offer. After they declined my offer, I had to do some further investigations, which I can show the court now, which show that what my son did not cause damage to that car.
Oh, well, I'd like to hear that, sir.
Here's a copy of the Ford Motor Company manual. And in the Ford Motor Company manual, if I may read it,
Sure.
it says to you, it says, the spin on the transmission transverse case on this 1991 Ford Explorer allows the shift between second high and 4-wheel high to be made at any vehicle speed. Your Honor, once the car is engaged in 4-wheel drive, the way you disengage this car from 4-wheel drive is to back the car up in reverse. So by pressing the vehicle 4-wheel drive button once, twice, or many times, it doesn't disengage from 4-wheel drive until you back the car up, and that's how it disengages. So once you pressed it one time, it was in 4-wheel drive, and it continued 4-wheel drive until they later came to Jack in the Box. At that point, they backed up and they heard a ratcheting type sound from the vehicle. That's when it was coming out of 4-wheel drive.
Can I see the estimates that you have, please?
May I say something else, Your Honor?
Sure.
Chris is here to identify or to be witness to the fact that Ty has taken this vehicle to different parking lot locations, jumping curbs and parking barriers that he failed to mention to his dad also.
Mr. West, I wasn't there. You weren't there.
Correct.
This young man did something wrong. He's acknowledged that he did something wrong. Your son acknowledged that he did something wrong. They both did something wrong because they were playing around with a very expensive piece of equipment that neither one of them bought or paid for, belonged to the plaintiff. Now, Your mistake, Mr. Knoll, was that when you write here, the defendant offered a 50% settlement, which we rejected as a matter of principle since we didn't contribute in any way to the damage. That was a mistake. Your son contributed to the damage. He contributed to the damage in either one of two ways. Either because he, in fact, drove the car recklessly, and or he did not, at the moment that this young man decided to push the buttons on the car that he knew was wrong, he didn't take care of this expensive piece of property the way he should have, which was to stop the car and say, get out of the car. There's nothing to say. Anything that you say, sir, is going to be an excuse, which is wrong.
No, it's the truth. You're listening to some here, and I can't allow that to
Just
happen.
Mr. Knoll,
I just need to have my say, that's all.
I'm not listening to anything. I'm not listening to what Ford Motor Company says, sir. I'm listening to what these two young men said.
Well,
and both of these boys seem to acknowledge that when they took your car out, they both did the wrong thing.
There's some lies over here, though. You haven't allowed him to speak what he saw.
Just a second. I listened to him. Let me tell you what he said, Mr. Knoll.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today,
If you buy them on the black market, you run the risk of getting tickets that are bogus. Now you know that, right?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jim Noel says his 16-year-old son, Ty, was driving his 1991 Ford Explorer when Gary West's son, Jared, unexpectedly threw the truck into four-wheel drive, causing $1,300 worth of damage. Gary says he doesn't believe what Jared did could have caused that kind of damage and refuses to pay for the repairs.
He said, one, he drove the car over grassy knolls, up and down curbs, and he knew that was wrong.
No, one curb.
You weren't there, sir. You better stop making excuses for your son. He seems like a very honest young man. You
So
keep
am I.
making excuses for him, and I guarantee you, you're teaching him a very bad lesson. He's standing here, he's being truthful.
So am I.
No, you're not, because you weren't there. You're making excuses. And if you were savvy and know what was going on, how many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
25, 16.
25-year-olds, a boy or a girl?
Girl.
Now you have a 16-year-old son. 16-year-old boys, when they're given a hot car, react differently than 16-year-old girls. So this is your first experience with a teenage son, right? Trust me, I've had 3 teenage sons. They all act like they're 4 years old, especially when they're in a car for the first time. 2 days he's had a license so that he could drive by himself. 2 days, and you give him your car. Stop making excuses for him, Mr. Knoll. The first, put your paper down, sir. Your son did the wrong thing. Without a 2-day trial with experts from Ford Motor Company and without mechanics here who were able to testify as to what the actual damage was and based upon their expertise what caused it, I have to rely on my sense of common sense. And don't say a word, and my sense of common sense is that your son did the wrong thing and that his son did the wrong thing. And the only one who's getting stuck is him, because it's his car and he's got to pay the damage. So the damage to the car, and I am let me just look through the rest of these things. Okay. The total damage to the car is $1,248. And, sir, I am awarding you $624, which is 1/2 the cost of the damage, because I believe that both of these young men contributed to this damage. Both of them did the wrong thing with your precious piece of metal. And next time you won't do it. Do you understand?
I understand.
That's all. Thank you.
All right, Judge, you may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
What my son did no damage to his car. I have nothing to say to this man. I don't care to shake your hand. I think you're a jerk.
Okay.
And now the next case.
Party's on Shank versus Beckman. Step forward, please.
18-year-old Troy Shank bought Metallica tickets from 26-year-old Robert Beckman. Troy didn't have the cash, so he gave Robert a guitar for collateral. Now Troy claims the tickets were bogus and wants his guitar back.
Mr. Shank, you wanted to see a concert.
Yes.
What concert was it?
It was a Metallica concert.
A what?
Metallica.
Metallica. What is
ma'am.
that?
It's a group. Heavy metal band.
Why did you want to see that?
I like them.
According to your complaint, sir, the defendant here had some tickets for this Metallica
Yes.
concert. You wanted 3 tickets,
Yes.
but you didn't have any money.
Correct.
So you gave him a guitar as collateral for the
Correct.
tickets. What was the purchase price that you agreed on for the tickets?
$50 a piece. I wanted 3, so $150.
And you gave him the guitar.
Correct.
What happened?
It turned out later that the...
You went to the concert.
Yes.
What happened when you got there?
We went to the front. We showed them our passes and stuff, and they said that they were counterfeit, and they questioned us thoroughly where we got them, blah, blah, blah. They took the tickets from us and didn't let us in. They kicked us out.
That was when you went to present them to the ticket taker.
Correct.
So you asked him for the guitar back.
No, after that night, I came home and paged Robert, and he never called me. I paged him previous lots of times for a numerous of probably 6 months, and he never called me back.
Yes.
Do you want to hear my side now? Okay, what it was is I gave him these tickets, and he gave me the guitar as collateral.
I understand that.
he
Let's
did
go
not-
back a little further. Where did you get the tickets from?
I purchased them off of a student at Saddleback College.
And what did you pay for the tickets?
I paid $100 a piece for them. And then he wasn't supposed to owe me $150. He was supposed to owe me $350. The problem was he was supposed to pay me a week before the concert. After the concert, I finally get this letter of court. He calls me and says, well, do you have any, like a VCR or TV or anything you can give me as collateral? I said, why? You know, you didn't, how do I know you didn't get into the show? I got on the show, my girlfriend got on the show, my brother got on the show. How do I know you did not get in?
You may have had somebody who let you in and wasn't looking carefully. They didn't. They had a problem.
I don't understand. I don't understand how they could have a problem.
They had a problem, sir.
Out of all the people that I know that went, everyone got in but them.
When you buy tickets from the concert itself, when you go up to the gate and give them money and buy tickets, then you know you're getting legitimate tickets. If you buy them on the black market, which is from somebody at school, you run the risk of getting tickets that are bogus. Now you know that, right?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I'm not sure yet. A lawyer.
I would suggest you not decide on the ministry, sir.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Troy Shank claims the concert tickets he got from Robert Beckman were counterfeit. He wants the replacement value of a guitar he gave him for collateral.
I believe the fact that you didn't get in with these tickets, and the law is very clear. You had a contract. You were going to pay the money to go to the concert.
Correct.
That's your contract. They didn't get into the concert, and therefore they got nothing in return for their money or their guitar. So you have to give them back the guitar. Do you understand?
I don't have the guitar anymore.
Why not?
I sold it for the money that they owed me.
They didn't owe you any money.
Well, what the...
Let me see the receipt.
I don't have the receipt.
You don't have the receipt, you don't have the guitar. When did you sell the guitar?
Probably about a month after the concert.
But they buzzed you, they paged you immediately.
Well, that night, I did not have my pager on me. I'd never take my pager to a concert. So, I mean, how would I return it?
You got as many excuses as Carter has pills, sir. I don't want to tell you, unless you straighten out, this isn't the last court you're going to be in. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, I do. But the agreement was he was supposed to pay me a week before the concert. He did not pay me my money a week before the concert.
Well, let us assume.
So
let me tell you. Let me
it-
tell you why, Mr. Beckman. You're standing there and I'm sitting here. Let me explain why. If I believed your story that the concert tickets were more than what they claim, and if they paged you, you would have called them back lickety-split because you would have thought to yourself, he's calling to make arrangements to pay me the money that he owes me. That's what would have gone on in my head if somebody owed me money. I better answer this page right away because I want to get my money. You, however, didn't have a page. You lost your page. You were busy. It was raining. It was snowing. A whole bunch of other excuses why you didn't return his page. And the truth of the matter is, you knew that there was trouble. Because there's no other reason for you not to have returned this page. All right, so you're guilty as charged. Now, the next question I have is, this bill for $1,000 for a guitar seems to me inflated. So let's talk about it.
Okay. The guitar...
How much did you pay for the guitar, and when?
I paid $748 for it.
Let me see the bill.
I do not have the receipt. My mom is here to testify. She's the one who bought it.
Fine. I'd like to hear from her. You sit down. Could you step up, please?
I have a...
Don't give me A. You have a mother.
Okay.
Mothers, I believe. Tell me your name.
Hi, I'm Anita Shank, Troy's mother.
Did you purchase this guitar?
Yes, I did.
And when did you purchase it for him?
In '95.
How much did you pay for it?
Approximately $800.
He says $748. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. You look like a nice young man who may have a bright future. Don't try to be a shortcut artist.
Well,
it never pays off, sir.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Your Honor, may I say something?
Sure.
Okay. When I gave him the guitar, it was in a guitar case, and inside that case was a guitar tuner, a guitar pedal, and a metronome, which I have the retail value, and that's why I sued for $1,000. It came over all that stuff that I gave him.
Why did you give him all that stuff?
The guitar was in a guitar case, and the guitar case has like a little pouch. I just keep my guitar stuff in there, and that was the only thing worth value. I just gave him the whole set. That's why I'm suing for $1,000.
Did it have all of that equipment in it?
I don't know.
What?
I didn't even bother to look in it. I mean, it was just collateral for the tickets, you know?
That's why I was suing
No,
for
I
$1,000.
understand it was collateral for the tickets, but again, you want me to believe that somebody gave you collateral, you sold it, and when you sold it, you didn't open up the case, didn't show it to anybody.
I looked in it. I mean, it just had, like, the strap for the guitar and, you know, little whammy things for the guitar and stuff like that.
Do you go to school?
Yes, I do.
College?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Yeah, what is
yes? Yes, Your Honor.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I'm not sure yet. A lawyer.
I would suggest you not decide on the ministry, sir. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff and the amount requested, $1,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy, 22-year-old Wayne McNeil is suing his former lover, 29-year-old Jason Brickhouse. Wayne says when he and Jason broke up, Jason didn't pay his share of the rent or the money Wayne loaned to him. Jason claims he paid him.
Order. All rise.
Your Honor, this is number 125 on the calendar in the matter of McNeil versus Brickhouse. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You're welcome. You may be seated.
All right. According to these papers, the two of you were in a domestic partnership arrangement for quite some time. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That arrangement, relationship is over. You claim, Mr. McNeil, that the defendant owes you almost $3,500.
That's correct.
Do you want to explain to me for what, sir?
We were in a relationship which parted in 1995, and Jason moved out, and he went through some problems and things, and towards the end of 1995, he didn't have anywhere to go. He couldn't afford to pay his rent and things like that, so I entered into an agreement with him that he could move in with me on the proviso.
How long had you been separated at that time, sir?
From June through December of 1995.
And how did it come about that he told you he was having these problems?
He called me one day at my office and said that he had lost his job, he'd been fired from his job, and would I go pick him up? And
does that sound familiar to you, sir?
No, that's not the way it happened, Your Honor. Mr. McNeil stayed in contact with me when he moved out, always. Was always in contact with me. And
but you were not together anymore.
No, it was more of a friendship. It wasn't like I called him because I lost my job.
Did you make an arrangement to move back into his home?
Yes, I did.
And what was the financial arrangement?
We split everything.
Was that how it was right from the beginning when you moved back in?
I was a little bit behind. I went back to work in May.
When did you move in?
January.
So you went back to work in May?
Correct.
So you owed him rent for January, February, March, April,
and I assume part of May. Is that right? 5 months?
But I paid it. But that would be the most.
How did you pay it if you weren't working?
He received my unemployment checks, and also I was temping. I did do work here and there
What
during
were
that
your
time.
unemployment checks?
$200.
A what?
Every 2 weeks or something.
Did you receive any of his unemployment
I
checks?
never received any of his unemployment checks. In fact, he always came up with excuses. And just as an example, one day he called me and in tears on the telephone that he'd been down to cash his unemployment check at a cash checking place on Santa Monica and La Brea. He'd walked out with the cash and he'd been mugged.
Does that sound familiar to you?
No, that doesn't. I don't know what he's talking about.
That's the absolute truth.
I believe you, sir.
And I have people.
I believe you.
Thank you.
How much was the arrangement for rent?
Half of the rent. The rent at that time was $505, and he was going to pay $250. And also, as part of the agreement, it was basically just rent. And the rent actually included utilities and all that sort of thing. I never ever asked him for like food or if we were ever
All
going.
you wanted was the $250 a month. How many months did he live there?
From January through March this year. That's what, 12, 15 months?
And how much did he pay you during those 15 months?
He paid me, it was a total of about $2,000. Did you get a copy of this?
No, I
with
have
the
nothing,
payments?
sir. I just have your complaint and his answer.
That's a copy of the whole thing with the actual payments that he did make me, and those payments weren't made until he had gone back to work at his place of employment.
All right, well, certain of the monies were repaid. The rent was repaid, $2,000 worth. You have a whole list of things. Checks written fraudulently and cashed?
Yes.
What is that about?
On September 8th last year, we got into an argument and I was actually arrested. He had already been arrested previously
for what?
for domestic violence.
I mean, you had a physical fight.
And during that time, part of the judge actually asked him to move out of my apartment. And during that week that I was actually in jail for that week, when I got back...
Why were you in jail for a whole week?
I think it was a mess with the judicial system at the
You
jail
mean they forgot
downtown.
about you?
I think so. So anyway, that's a whole other point. When I got back, 3 checks were written out of my checking account. He knew that I got paid during the time that I was in jail, and he wrote and cashed 3 checks to the value of $550 on my checking account.
Did you do that, sir?
Yes, I did, but I did not forge them. They were signed already.
Well, did you have permission to cash them?
No, I didn't have permission.
Well, then how come you did that?
I was mad at him. But, Your Honor, that money was paid back. You know, all this money that he's claiming...
Show me where it was paid back.
It was not... I don't have any receipts because I have tax liens against me. Everything I do is in cash. And I have a witness who is my current roommate now that will testify that I pay everything in cash, my utility bills, my rent, everything, because I can't open a checking account.
You can get money orders. You don't have to have a checking account, sir.
But I'm in a domestic relationship partner, Your Honor.
No,
I
you
just
weren't.
give him the cash.
No, you weren't, sir. At the time that we're talking about, this domestic partnership had terminated and we were in a situation of a landlord and a tenant with regard to certain bills.
No, Your Honor, we weren't.
Well, you told me that.
He was still, at this time when this happened, we were still living in the same household, and he was still pretending to be my lover.
I don't understand.
Your Honor, I could witness that.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
They would come to my house in the desert as lovers. They would come to stay in my house in the desert.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You have a new friend. Ask him for money. What are you calling him?
He's not a new friend.
No.
I've known him for 10 years.
Fine, ask him for money.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 42-year-old Wayne McNeil is suing his former lover, 29-year-old Jason Brickhouse, alleging when they broke up, Jason didn't pay his share of the rent. Jason claims he paid the money in cash.
There are a lot of things charged here. Gas, gasoline. Why does he have your American Express card?
He took it from
When?
me. I have no idea. He used my American Express card to pay for a public storage unit when in January of last year. I have no
Well,
idea
hold
how
on
he got
just a second. Sir, let me tell you why I have a problem with that. Because you have different dates here, but they're over a many-month period, so that when you saw the first bill for gas signed by him...
No, the gas and everything I did. I don't have a motor vehicle. He has a car, and because he never had any money, he was always asking me to put gas in his car because his job is during the weekends. He used to do deliveries for a messenger service, and he never had money to put gas in his car, so I would put gas in his car. And he always said that he would pay me back. This whole thing started...
No, that's nonsense. Come on. Let's talk about big things. Let's not talk about $11 for gas.
But it adds up.
Of course it adds up, sir, and if you didn't want to do it, you wouldn't have done it. And it went over a long enough period of time so that you could have said at any time, if these were loans, listen, you have to give me back the $11, the $4, the $14. Come on, let's get serious.
He was always saying, I would pay you when I get paid.
Let's
I
get
would pay
serious.
you when I get paid, and you never would.
Let's take care of the big things first. There is an agreement to pay $250 in rent over a 15-month period. I can't work these things.
$3,750, Judge.
And you say he paid you $2,000.
If that's what,
now,
yeah.
Did he pay you $2,000 in cash or check?
He paid me in cash.
Can I speak now?
Sure.
Your Honor, this whole relationship, I paid, I don't have receipts. I paid in cash. That's why I brought a witness in that will tell. That's what I do. I pay in cash.
I don't care if that's what your pattern is. He already said to you, you paid him in
Yeah.
cash. He acknowledges that you paid him $2,000 in cash.
But he
I don't care
is-
if that's what this witness is going to tell me.
He is lying.
His witness is going to, your witness is
Right.
going to say that you pay all your bills by cash.
Right.
Well, that they were also in a relationship together.
Yeah.
It wasn't just roommates.
Listen to me. Just answer the questions that I posed to you.
Okay, Your Honor, this went on for a long period of time. I have a restraining order against Mr. McNeil. On June 22nd of this year, Mr. McNeil started pounding on my door at 3 o'clock in the morning drunk. I threatened to call the police and have him thrown in jail. This case was filed on June 23rd. It's nothing more than harassment and retaliation because I don't want anything to do with them. That's all it is.
Go ahead, Mr. McNeil.
Okay. The whole reason that this case is here today is because on June 13, Jason called me and said, can you give me $20? I have no food in the house. I said, no, I'm not going to give you $20, Jason. He said, I'll pay you back on Monday when I get paid. I said, I still can't give you the money. So I left to go out with some friends, and I went upstairs and I gave him $5. When I got home that night, I called him up and I left a message on his machine. It was about 10 o'clock at night, and admittedly, it was a little sarcastic. It was the fact that, you know, you're obviously out drinking the $5 that I gave you, because he had also been sick all week during the week with stomach problems and things. So that was it. On Monday night, I went upstairs. He goes to a domestic violence class on Monday nights, which I've paid for the last 3 months, $40 every time when he hasn't got the $40 to pay for it. And knocked on his door. He comes to the door. He'd also been drinking. He said, I'm not very pleased with you. I said, what are you talking about? He said, you leave nasty messages on my answer machine. I know I owe you money. I'll put it in an envelope and leave it under your door.
And I did. I left $65 in an envelope under his door after I got paid.
No,
and
you
I
did
said,
not.
from this point on, leave me alone.
No.
Just get out of my life and leave me alone.
Was there any money left under your door?
No, there was not.
Yes, there was.
There was not.
Sir, why are you still calling him for money?
I thought we could be friends, but
You know,
obviously we couldn't.
You're a user.
No,
I want to tell you something. You're a user. Because if you're not together anymore and you have a new friend...
You want to ask him
Shut
why he... Sorry.
You have a new friend. Ask him for money. What are you calling
He's
him?
not a new friend.
No.
I've known him for 10 years. We are just roommates.
Fine, ask him for money.
He won't pay him.
Why?
He won't lend him money. Sorry.
You're a user because
I disagree
called
with
him.
you, Your Honor.
Well,
He
you may
used
disagree with
me.
me, but since I'm the judge, I get the last word.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
Whatever she did was an accident if she transgressed on your rights as a pedestrian. What you did was a purposeful act of vandalism.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
There are certain things that I find were agreements between the two of you, and that was that when he moved back in, he was supposed to pay rent. Rent was $250 a month. I believe you when you say that he paid $2,000 of that $3,750 amount that he was supposed to pay. So I have $1,750 left that he owes you. I also want to ask you one question, just you. Did he pay you back this $550 that he wrote in forged checks?
No, he didn't.
I believe that too, that he did not pay you back. So I'm adding that. That's $2,300. Do you understand? That's what I'm giving you.
Okay.
Don't give him any more money.
Don't worry, I'm not.
Good. Judgment in the case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,300. That's all.
Boys are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
Out the back door to your right, please.
When he's been drinking, he gets violent, and
I don't know where this is coming from, but this is ridiculous.
Excuse me, Michael.
And now the next case.
Parties on Williams versus Brazil. Step forward, please.
24-year-old Adrienne Williams says when she was sharing a storage unit with her friend Melvin Brazil, he took her washer and dryer. Melvin says he was only borrowing the appliances and fully planned on returning them.
I love the way your mind works.
Thank you.
I'm not so sure you're right, but I love the way your mind works. You two people rented a storage space together. You had just been friends, is that right?
Yes.
You all put your stuff in the storage space. You, sir, sort of borrowed some of her stuff.
A couple items.
You want to tell me what you borrowed?
It was a washer and dryer.
And what did you do with the washer and dryer?
Well, I used it for a few months.
Did you ask her permission?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
Because I knew I wasn't going to be using it that long, but when I went to take it back, it wouldn't fit in the storage because there was stuff stacked up so high, so I had it took to a friend of mine's house that she knew. And it sat there for a while.
To make a long story short, you go there and find no washer dryer.
Right.
And you were closing out the storage space.
Yes.
So what did you do?
I packed up everything in the storage and took it back to Sacramento with me.
Including what?
Including all of his furniture.
Yes!
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
$5,000, so it must be a lot of stuff.
No,
right?
it's just expensive stuff.
You mean small and expensive, like me?
Judge Judy. Melvin Brazil says he borrowed a brand new washer and dryer from Adrienne Williams without telling her. Now, Adrienne doesn't want them back. She wants a new washer and dryer.
You don't think she was wrong, do you?
Yes, I do.
Why?
Because we already had arrangements made. She was supposed to contact me that morning, and I was going to get off, and I was going to help her move. I was going to tell her then where her washer and dryer was.
Oh, okay.
You mean you hadn't told her where her washer and dryer?
No, because I knew that she was going to get mad, and I was trying to save her that problem from knowing she was up there and I was down here.
You don't think she had a right to be mad?
This is the way I saw it. She has my pager number, my mother's number, everything. Instead of her just making a rash judgment, taking everything and just taking it back to Sacramento, all she had to do was call me and tell me.
Well, all you had to do was call her.
No, I was at work. I couldn't call her.
Did you let me finish? Don't interrupt me. It's not nice to interrupt a judge. You also, sir, could have called her and said, could I borrow your washer and dryer?
Right, you're right.
Why do you think she should call you and say, what did you do with my washer and dryer when you didn't have the decency to call her and say, can I borrow your washer and dryer?
Is that a question? You telling me it don't sound like a question.
Anyway, Miss Williams, you don't want that washer and dryer back.
Well, apparently he sold it, so I couldn't have it back if I wanted it back.
Did you sell it?
The washer and dryer sat at my mother's house for 4 months. She could have had that washer and dryer anytime she wanted it.
She said, I don't want it anymore, just like I would say I didn't want it anymore, because you don't know what's been washed in that washer and dryer. She had a washer and dryer that she used for her lingerie, for her underwear, for her sheets and her towels. She knew what went in that washer and dryer. You put any kind of schmutz you want in the washer and dryer and then expect her to take it back after you've stored it, used it. So you sold it. Now you got to pay for it. How old was the washer and dryer?
I bought it in August, and I put it in storage in March, so less than a year old.
And how much did you pay for it?
Approximately $860. I have the receipt here.
Could you give me the exact amount, please?
$823.31.
Now, the rest of what you're suing him for is because he didn't pay for the storage fees, his half of the storage fees. How much were the storage fees a month?
The storage fees were $48 a month.
And how many times did you make the payments of $24 a month, sir?
I paid the last $80 for her to get the stuff out of there.
How many months was your stuff in storage, sir?
How many months was my stuff in storage? 4 months.
How many months was his stuff in storage?
His stuff was in storage the majority of the time I had the storage.
No.
We agreed to pay half of the storage cost. Period. We agreed to get a storage big enough to hold both of our things. Why would I get a storage big enough to hold 2 apartments worth of things if I was only going to put 1 apartment
How
worth
many
of things
months storage did you pay for?
I had it for 16 months.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I say so. My stuff was only in there for about 4 months.
What difference does it make if you agreed to rent a storage space with her?
But my
and she
stuff
took,
wasn't
I'm
in there at the
speaking. And she took a storage space big enough to accommodate your stuff, which you say is worth $5,000, so it must be a lot of stuff.
No,
right?
it's just expensive stuff.
You mean small and expensive, like me?
Yeah.
16 months, and you paid once?
My stuff wasn't in there 16 months.
Doesn't make any difference.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
All right, listen to me. You owe her $1183.31 for the storage and her washer and dryer. Okay. Your account is suing up $5,000 for the small yet expensive merchandise that you had stored in the storage. You want to tell me what that is?
It's a leather sectional that I had custom made. There's a marble coffee table and
Where are
an
the
end
bills?
table.
Where are your bills?
Rebuilt.
Your bills that you had custom made. If you had a leather sofa custom made, you had marble table custom made, I assume that in addition to standing there with your story, you have some proof to show me.
I didn't bring any.
Why not?
Because I didn't think it was going to be relevant. This stuff is, I've had it for years. I don't have any receipts of it.
Well, if you've had
paid
it for
cash.
years, then it's not worth what you paid for it. It
I
has
say
a
4 years I had it. Her stuff was used when I had it. Her washer and dryer wasn't brand new.
You stole her washer and dryer.
I borrowed her washer and dryer.
No, you stole it.
I didn't steal it.
You stole
it. was
it.
there. She had access to it.
You stole it. You stole her washer and dryer without her permission. I never returned it to her.
I tried to return it to her. She wouldn't come get it. It was at my mom's house.
What'd you do with his stuff?
It's still in my garage in the same spot it's been in the day I brought it home.
You have no problem with him getting a large truck and coming to pick up his stuff?
I do. I'd rather deliver it to him. I don't want him at my house.
Oh, that's fine. You sure you want to do that?
Yes.
That was the agreement
Very
that was
good.
from the gate.
Very good. She's going to return your stuff to you, sir.
Your Honor,
And you,
can I say
sir, are going to pay her $1,183.31. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in that amount. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. 44-year-old Joseph Strews is suing 29-year-old Robin Scherzer, a woman he met while she was performing as an exotic dancer. Joseph claims he loaned Robin money to purchase a car and expected to be paid back. Robin says the car was a gift and she owes Joseph nothing.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Your Honor, this is case number 181 in the matter of Strews versus Scherzer. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
Sir, you allege in your complaint that you made a loan to the defendant of $1,600 for the purpose of buying a used car.
Yes, Your Honor.
She says it was a gift.
She's
So
wrong,
why
Your
don't you tell me what prompted you to lend this young woman $1,600 to buy a car?
Well, Your Honor, I met the defendant in June. I think you've read the statement, and I have a little problem with wanting to help girls out, and I admit that, but she had her car repossessed by her mother earlier, and she wanted to get out of the job that she was doing at the time that I met her, so she needed an automobile to gain employment as a personal assistant. So at the time, I had enough money, and we were becoming friends and casually dating. So I offered to loan her the $1,600.
What did you say? Tell me exactly what you said and what she said.
I told her that I had the money and that I would help her with the purchase of the car. She told me that she insisted that she would pay me in October for whatever the loan for the car was. And I discussed the price with her. I said, you know, what can you afford? You know, anywhere from $1,000, $2,000. We were looking at cars. And like I said, we found a car through a friend of mine that is an automobile broker, and she was pleased with the car that we had found. And
what kind of car was it?
It was a 1987 Audi 4000, Your Honor.
Okay, so you both went and saw the car together.
Yes, we did. We looked at 2 cars previous to that, and Robin was not happy with those cars, so I asked my friend to...
this is the friend?
This is the friend, Miss Moore. And I asked her to keep looking for a car that would be suitable for Robin. And when we found a car, we went test drove it, and Robin said that it'd be a suitable car for her.
So you paid for it?
Yes, I did. I have a bill of sale right here, Your Honor. I have a check receipt here. I've got everything right here.
I'd like to see your file.
Okay.
So then what happened?
Can I add something else,
Sure.
Your Honor? Okay, I am just asking for the $1,600. I'm not asking for this for the money. I'm asking it for the purpose of that this woman, I went out of my way to help her. I didn't expect anything in return from her. But after I had purchased the car, she disappeared. For 7 days, I had it set up that she could have insurance through the insurance man that insures my car. Miss Moore was going to get her to register the car. She was gone for 7 days. I asked her, I said, Robin, you need to take care of these things. She said, well, I want to get a car stereo. I said, listen, young lady, in order for you to operate a motor vehicle, you've got to take care of these things. I'd already had it set up. She got really mad at me. She said she wouldn't talk to me. I said, fine. I said, just take care of the stuff. When I spoke to her again, I said, have you taken care of it? She said, no. She said, you're being mean to me, and I don't want to speak to you anymore. I said, that's fine. I just need you to take care of this stuff. She never registered the car, and as far as I know right now, I don't know what she's doing with it.
Okay. Ms. Scherzer?
I also,
yes, Your Honor. I understand.
Your Honor, can I also tell you that, in here I have other checks that I wrote for a sofa that I purchased for her that I didn't expect anything. Also her rent that I didn't expect anything. And, it's like, one more time, it's like my friends have told me not to do this. I'm attracted to women who work in the...
Mr. Strews?
Yes.
You say she owes you $1,600. Can I hear why she thinks that this was a gift?
Yes, I would love to hear that, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I told him not to buy me a car because I knew that there would be something else expected. Something more.
You mean something physical?
Yes. And, as far as the sofa, I didn't even know he was going to go pay for that. The furniture store called me and said, your couch has been paid for. We'd like to deliver it. Can you call us and let us know when? I don't feel that I owe him any money at all. I told him that I was seeing someone. I told him that he could not expect anything from me, nothing. And he said that was fine. He understood. If anything, he would just like to maybe be able to spend some time with me.
Where's the car?
The car is at my house.
Where's the sofa?
At my house.
Miss Scherzer?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Not while I'm getting ready to talk, sir.
Excuse me.
If you think that I believe that you're a nice young woman, you're mistaken. You're a taker. Because if what you just said to me is true, that you didn't want to accept any gifts from him because you knew that there were strings attached. Are you chewing gum?
Yes, ma'am.
Get it out of your mouth.
Okay. Your Honor?
I'm not finished.
Okay.
If somebody like this gentleman has a problem because he is generous to a fault with young women and he expects something in return, then a nice young woman would say, I'm not speaking to you.
I'm sorry.
Then a nice young woman who cared about doing the right thing would have said to the furniture store, please I don't have the money for the sofa. Return the money to the person who paid it, and when I can afford to pick up the sofa, I will pick it up. And a nice woman would have said, not only did I tell you I don't want your help with a car, but I'm not accepting a car from you because I don't want any strings attached. You, on the other hand, madam, accepted all these things.
Yes, I did.
That's
That's
amoral, madam. It's cheapening yourself. It's cheapening yourself. If you knew in your head that he expected something from you in exchange for these gifts, and you were not prepared to give it to him, right?
Correct.
Then you're a tease. Did you ever hear that expression? Did you ever, madam? Did you ever hear that expression?
Your Honor.
Yeah.
He would stand at my door, and like force me to kiss him goodbye. I never told him that there was anything that he could expect from me at all.
Miss Scherzer.
Ever.
Miss Scherzer, are you not following what I'm saying to you, madam? I mean, are you really that thick?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Obviously, she's very angry. She thinks that I'm like a desperate man, but, you know, I've got 2 women with me right here, you know? It's like, how desperate could I be?
And later today...
I didn't see a naked woman. If I did, I'd sure as hell remember it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robin Scherzer says when Joseph Strews bought her a car, he called it a gift. But now that their friendship is over, he wants to be compensated.
When you tease someone, that means you hold a carrot in front of them like this. Okay? And you say, maybe you can have it, maybe you can't.
No.
Now, if you are not, however, put your hand down. Don't you know when to shut up? If, however, you are an honest person, you say, I want nothing to do with you, sir. I want you to take your gifts. I want you to take your money. I want you to take your sofas and your rent money and your cars and everything else. I want you to leave me alone. And if you don't leave me alone, because I'm not interested in you, I'm going to call the police. I'm going to get a restraining order so that you don't come to my door anymore. You, on the other hand, were dishonest with him. I find that to be absolutely immoral. You got it?
Yes.
Good. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
Don't get mad, sweetheart. I'm not mad at you.
I'm not mad at all.
You're very mad.
No.
You're lying about me up there.
I think you're a joke.
You're calling me, you're calling me a desperate man. Do I look like a desperate man? I don't have any problem with women. I met her through an agency that she strips. She did. And I don't blame her. I don't think there's anything wrong with girls that strip.
Why were you calling that agency?
It's like,
do you have to call
we won't
people?
go into...
You have to call people to get them to come to your house to do that?
Honey,
Is that how desperate you are?
You're not bothering me by this. It's an expensive lesson, but I still date strippers.
And now the next case.
Party's on Miguel versus Parker. Step forward, please.
Rosalinda San Miguel is suing her exterminator, Brandon Parker, because she claims he entered her apartment without knocking and saw her in the nude. She's suing for mental anguish.
All right. You're in the shower.
I was getting ready to take a shower.
And you heard a knocking on your door?
Yes.
What did you do?
I went to my son's bedroom to look through the window to see who it was.
And who was it?
It was a pest control man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pest control?
Yes.
An exterminator?
Right.
Correct.
Of bugs?
Excuse me?
Of bugs?
Bugs, anything.
Anything. And so what did you do?
When I seen that it was him, I ignored it because I hadn't ordered no services for that day. So as I proceeded to go down the hallway to go back into the bathroom, I saw like a light in my living room. And when I went in there, he was in my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time when I went in there, I was naked.
When and where?
Into the living room because I had removed all my clothing already when I was getting ready for my shower.
So you're suing him for all kinds of pain, suffering, and distress because he let himself into your apartment and saw you naked. Correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, Mr. Parker.
Yes, ma'am. I was going to this apartment complex for my first time. We had just gotten the account, and they gave me a sheet of paper of a list of apartments to do. And They told me to pick 5 apartments out of this, about 20 apartments on there to do, so I went about doing that.
How did you get into these 5 apartments? So you picked 5 apartments?
Right.
How did you get into these 5 apartments?
The management sent a maintenance person with me, plus they gave me a key. Halfway through doing these apartments, the maintenance person left. So I chose her apartment was one of the last ones I was to do. And I went to her door, I knocked, and I knocked, and I knocked. No one would answer the door. So I assumed the apartment was empty. And I was to go in there, do my business, and get out and get gone. So I unlocked the door, opened the door, said pest control. I yelled it 3 times, and then about after the 3rd time, she came through the hallway. She was not naked.
She was?
She was not naked.
What was she wearing?
She had a long T-shirt on and what appeared to be shorts. And as I was trying to understand her, what she was trying to say to me, she was pushing me out the door. I was trying to explain to her what I was to do. And it came out to be that I had mistaken her apartment for another one that was in the same area.
Let me understand this. Was her apartment number on this list that you got?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
I also have a copy of the work order log. I had order for services 6/20/97, and it specifically says spiders outside only.
Miss Miguel, the problem is, when I read your complaint and I read his answer, it appears to me that this gentleman was told that your apartment was one of those apartments that was to be serviced that day. Do you understand?
Yes.
So my question is, if that is true, then you are suing the wrong person. You should be suing your management company, the people who told him to go into your apartment. What are you suing him for?
Correct.
He was following instructions.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I just felt I was very violated. I really was. I can understand a mistake, like I've said, but when you're asked to leave, you are to leave.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rosalinda San Miguel is suing her exterminator, Brandon Parker, because she claims he entered her apartment without knocking and saw her in the nude. She's suing for mental anguish.
On this work order log, Your Honor, it states the date of services that were supposed to be done that day.
You mean this is the work order log that he had?
This is the work order log that my management had.
Not that your management. I want to see the one that he had.
It's
so
the same
I
one.
will. What?
It's
the
the
same
same
thing?
one, Your Honor.
Let me see.
The one highlighted is my apartment, Your Honor.
Okay. President. Sir, I'd like you to look at this. This is what your employer submitted.
Right.
I'd like you to take a look at that piece of paper, please. And I have a copy of it. Does it not indicate that her apartment was only to be serviced outside?
Yes, that's what I'm saying is on the line above it, it says roaches. Whenever I went to do that, I was a busy day, and I had misread the line above it to what I was spraying for.
No, you didn't tell me that before, sir.
Well, I should have. I'm sorry.
No, you didn't tell me that before. Before you told me that you had received a list, you went into the list, and it turned out to be...
This is what I was received.
So you went into the wrong apartment.
Right.
You, the management company didn't tell you to go into that apartment. You went into the wrong apartment.
They told me to pick 5 apartments from this whole sheet.
Right, but
They
her
didn't.
apartment says spiders outside.
Right.
So what'd you go inside for?
Because I misread the line above
Because you
it.
made a...
Mistake.
Okay. That's simple.
Right.
Now, you made a mistake. So you're not suing his boss, who clearly has deep pockets, much deeper pockets, because you could have. You understand that.
Yes.
That was your mistake. He made a mistake. Now, is this a $5,000 mistake? Because that's what you're suing for? You're going to have to explain to me why this was a $5,000 mistake, Ms. Miguel, because I can see an apology and some sort of minimal compensation, but quite frankly, I don't see where this mistake, and it was clearly an honest mistake, is worth anywhere near $5,000.
Your Honor, we're all human. I know we all make mistakes, and I mean, my heart's not that cold, you know, to say, okay, you made a mistake. But when he went in, and I told him, what are you doing in here? He told me that he had a work order you know, to spray for roaches. I go, I don't have roaches. You need to leave. He told me, no, you signed a waiver with your manager that I can come in here. And I told him I never did no such thing. I asked him to leave about 3 or 4 times, Your Honor, and he would not leave. I had to take the master keys myself from the lock, and I threw them and I shoved them out my door. And I told him, I will meet you in my manager's office, because he refused to leave my home. I told him, I live here, and I'm telling you to leave, and he wouldn't leave.
Well, you understand, Miss Miguel, that he honestly believed that he had a work order to do your apartment. You understand that? I mean, he wasn't making that up. He honestly believed that he had a work order. He misread a line. How many times did she ask you to leave, sir?
As far as I remember, I heard maybe once or twice.
Well, why didn't you leave right away?
Because I was trying to understand what she was wanting me to do.
She wanted you to leave.
Yes, I understand that, but she was speaking so fast, I was having trouble understanding her.
How long have you been working for this exterminating company, sir?
Approximately 5 to 6 months.
How much do you earn a day?
About $50 a day.
You have family?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of family do you have?
I have a wife and a young child.
How old's your child?
He's going to be a year in September.
How much money do you bring home a week?
Approximately $200.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, it is.
Doesn't sound like a lot of money.
It's not.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Now, he makes $50 a day. He. The exterminating company, they make probably a lot more than $50 a day, right?
Yes, we do.
But you didn't sue them. You sued him. I think he made an honest mistake. I think he probably didn't act appropriately right away because he couldn't understand you. You were very upset. Should have left right away when she told you to
Yes, ma'am,
leave.
I understand that.
You understand that?
Yes.
It's going to cost you 2 days' pay. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $100. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.